Hello, happy Friday. Good morning slash afternoon, I guess, depending on where you all are at. I'm Tyler, and today we're gonna be doing a live Q&A. First of all, thank you to everyone who's on here. I'm gonna do a couple quick promos here, so just bear with me while I'm multitasking. But yeah, I'm so excited. It's been an amazing journey with Optimist over the last 6 years, building and running and growing the agency. And I'm excited to really share lessons, answer questions, do whatever I can to try to pay it forward and help other people. That's always kind of been my MO. Over the course of my career, I've really focused on trying to be transparent, write about what I know, what I've learned. I'm certainly not a guru or some kind of an expert who knows all the ins and outs or has any kind of like proven system or anything like specific like that. But again, I just try to be transparent, try to share the lessons that I've learned, answer questions, and help other people find their own path to success. So yeah, I'm really excited. First of all, if you wouldn't mind, just pop into the chat, say hi, let me know who's here. And as you are doing that, feel free to let me know if you have any specific questions that you want me to talk about right away. Otherwise, I will kind of share a little bit about Optimist, a little bit more background on us while we get some questions coming in. Cool. Let me finish posting this really quick, and then I will pop back in. Cool. All right. That is out there. Okay. So quick background for those of you who have not, hey, Sheldon, for those of you who have not, sort of followed along with Optimist over the years, just a really quick background. Basically what it is a content marketing agency. We kind of operate at the intersection of content marketing and SEO. We work primarily with B2B tech startup SaaS companies that sort of live in that realm somewhere. And most of our clients are venture funded startups. So the vast majority of our clients are generally like a Series A or a Series B company. They've raised some money. They've got a little bit of traction and product market fit, and they're trying to really scale and ramp things up. We really only sell and do one thing, which is a full service content marketing. Basically, it's like a content marketing team in a box. So we work with clients, we come in, we do initial research and strategy and kind of figure out what the roadmap looks like. And then we work with them on a monthly retainer to execute that plan. So it's generally, content creation, link building, updating and optimizing pages and content, basically really just focused on how do we move the needle in terms of driving organic traffic and then converting that organic traffic into leads, sales, revenue, et cetera for the business. So as you may know from me advertising it, this is our 6-year anniversary. We just turned 6 this year. Over that time, we've grown from zero. Basically, I was freelancing before this, and we started 6 years ago and took on our first client within our first month or two. And we've gone from that to where we are now, which is we work with about 10 to 15, somewhere in there, clients. And we're doing around 1.5 million in yearly revenue. So we're not huge, but we're I would say a fairly established agency. And we really aren't trying to grow beyond that or really scale this thing, to a $1 billion enterprise or anything like that. So along that path, obviously, our initial goal was to build $1 million agency. We hit that in year 2, and then we have been sort of figuring out what comes next for the last few years. And what it's looked like so far has been kind of maintaining roughly the same size, growing a little bit, kind of figuring out which clients are really the best fit for us over the long term, and just continuing to iterate on the business model. One other thing that's in the background. Hey, Kim. One other thing that's in the background here is that our business model is a little bit unique. So we operate under a business model that we think of as like a collective. So essentially, we don't have any full-time employees. Everyone on our team is a professional freelancer. So not just like a moonlighter, but they actually are a full-time professional freelancer themselves. They work on our team directly with clients. And so, our job is really to kind of put together the pieces, so to speak. So when a client hires us, we work with our team to kind of figure out who the best fit people on our team are in terms of skills and experience and interest in the topics and the company that we're working with. And then what we try to do is, assemble that team to really provide an end-to-end content marketing strategy and plan for that client. So we do have, again, we have a kind of a unique model there. We call it a collective because we also, in addition to everyone being like paid for their time and their work, we have a pretty hefty profit share that we offer. Basically, everyone on the team who's working with ongoing clients is eligible for a profit share payment, which is issued each month. It's calculated quarterly. And so, we think of that as really a way to give everyone on our team some ownership and a little bit of skin in the game, so to speak, from a business perspective. And, that's really kind of the founding ethos of Optimist is like, we want to be a place of ownership, of autonomy, where people can really do great work, own the work that they're doing, and we can deliver amazing results for clients without a bunch of management or without creating a bunch of stress for people on the team, things like that. And that's kind of where we're headed and what we're focused on. Hey, Ken. Hey, good to see you, man. So again, that's a little bit of background on Optimist. Share with me some of the questions that you all have, some of the challenges that you're dealing with as an agency, or I guess what you're hoping to learn today. I'll be excited to see what you all are dealing with. While we wait for those questions to come in, I was just going through some of my posts and things that I've written over the years. One thing that I find is really interesting, just a small lesson that I feel like I've learned over the years, is that there are very tiny things sometimes that you can do with clients that have a huge outsized impact on the value that you provide to them. I always give this example, but in our work, as I said, we really try to do end-to-end service, which starts in the research and the strategy, and it ends with link building, promotion, reporting, all the kind of keeping track of everything. One tiny step in there that we provide for clients is we upload content, right? We take content out of Google Docs, we put it into WordPress, we format it and do all that stuff, and we actually hit publish on the actual content itself. And that is like such a tiny thing, right? It takes us like 30 minutes. It's not super high value work. Anybody can do it. But it makes a huge difference to the client, right? Because they don't have to think about it. They never have to consider whether that content's going to go out. They don't have to worry about having somebody on their team to do it. They don't have to worry about forgetting, right? And so just that little small additional thing that we provide or that we do for clients has, again, I think an outsized impact on the value or maybe the perceived value that clients are receiving. So my advice to people is basically, what is the equivalent of that in your agency, right? Is there some small thing that you can do that it's an extra inch of work, but it creates a mile of value, so to speak. So that's a little tip there. We got a bunch of comments flowing in here, so I'm going to try to pivot to some of the questions. How do you? Okay. So Sheldon's just asking about lead gen essentially. How do we get clients and are we actively looking for new business? Sheldon's short answer is not really. We are at a pretty stable size right now in terms of our clients. We are always sort of evaluating the clients that we're working with and looking to potentially bring on more clients if and when it's a good fit. But we are at this stage right now where we're really focused on making sure that every client we bring on is a super good fit. We're in alignment on all things. And so we're not looking to expand much and certainly not in any big way at the moment. How do we get leads? At this point, it's about 50% inbound, 50% referral. People always ask, how do you get your first clients? Content marketing, right? We wrote content on the site about how we do content marketing, and then we promoted it, right? And over time, we've also built up SEO as an inbound stream. That takes time, of course, to establish that. And so, we started by just really focusing on actively promoting that content to drive traffic back to the site. Nowadays, probably 50% of our work comes from referrals from existing or past clients, as well as clients moving to our contacts at past clients move to a new job, and then they bring us with them or hire us again at another company. So that's kind of where we're at right now in terms of lead gen. So Kim is asking about our collective business model, right? So how do we determine that was the right business model for me? Long story short is, there wasn't really any experimentation, frankly. For me, it was more about kind of my personal values and sort of the values that I wanted from the company. And what I knew from working in past agencies is that, in a lot of agencies, you have a ton of bureaucracy, a ton of management and micromanagement. There's account people and that don't really understand the work they're doing, but they're talking to clients, and there's just all this like sort of messy stuff that comes with working at an agency. And if you've worked at an agency, you probably know that. And so my goal was really to say, okay, how do we avoid that? How do we create sort of an anti-agency in a sense, right? Where we can do this work, but without all of the overhead and the management and all that stuff. And really the other insight for me was that at the time I was working as a full-time professional freelancer, like the folks who are on our team. And what I realized is that those people, right, people who run their own business as a professional freelancer, they are used to owning their work, right? Managing themselves. They run their own business. They have to deal directly with clients. They have to manage their time and their tasks and all that stuff without somebody else telling them what to do or how to do it. And so the sort of founding insight there was, if we can take that and put a team of people together that all have that sort of same relationship with the work they're doing, then we won't need managers and directors and VPs and a bunch of layers and that kind of stuff. And so that was really sort of what it was. I can't say it's the best business model for us because we haven't tested anything else, but I do think it has generally worked out really well. I think, especially with a small team, a tight roster of clients that really fit the model that we're going for, and increasing amount of clarity around what we do and who we work with is another key piece of this, right? It can get chaotic if you're trying to do too many different things. So I think it works best if you've got sort of a really core specific niche offering for a specific type of client. So yeah, happy to answer additional questions about that, Kim. I know you and I were discussing by email. Ken, can you share how you track clients to your agency? Well, let me know if you have additional questions about this. I think I shared the basics here, but yeah, essentially right now it's about 50% inbound, 50% referrals. Obviously referrals is a huge one. Like, I think in the future, we will probably rely almost entirely on referrals, especially as we're, not looking to grow significantly in the future. We don't need really a steady stream of new clients coming to the door. And if we can continue to maintain those existing relationships, I think that pays off in a huge way. How do we hire our first team members? Hey, Annie. Let me know if I'm pronouncing that right, by the way, Annie. How do you hire first team members? So long story short is we sort of had a life hack here, right? We didn't hire anyone technically as a full-time employee. I found the initial people who joined the team originally by just creating a job ad. I put it on Reddit, was one of the main places that I started the search, which may seem strange, but at the time I was finding work personally as a freelancer through Reddit, and so it was just top of mind for me. Basically I just sort of put it out there as like this idea that I had, and I had identified, hey, we need writers and designers, and we need, somebody to handle promotion, and, kind of identified some of the key roles, and I put it out there, and I was very fortunate to get some really great responses. I mean, we got, over the years, we've received, probably 3,000 applications from folks. But yeah, we were very fortunate that we had a lot of great success with this right away. This is actually something that I'll talk a little bit later about middle of the funnel and kind of our private community that I've started. But part of the resources that are in there, one of them is about hiring, right? So we've really evolved our hiring process, the way that we look for talent, the way that we evaluate talent, because we're not looking for sort of a traditional standard resume and kind of, evaluating people how you might for a full-time job. So we've sort of adapted our own process to do a better job of finding the people who really understand the work that they're doing, can work well with a team, can kind of check all these boxes that really make somebody a great fit for Optimist. And again, going back to those founding principles, a big part of that is ownership, autonomy, being able to work without a manager, somebody managing you, et cetera. So those are all things that we look for when we're evaluating clients. And again, we have kind of our own process and our workflow that we use there. How are you measuring traffic and attribution? Shared Google Analytics view. Yeah. Hey, Randy. Short answer is yes, right? It's analytics. I would say 99% of our clients, I think we have a couple clients who use Mixpanel and some other tools for measurement, but for the vast majority of them, it's simply Google Analytics. We have a weekly scorecard that we track metrics in, and generally for each client, we have a roster of metrics. So somewhere between, 5 and 15 different sort of measures that we're tracking. And what we're trying to really capture there is the highest level performance, right? So leads, sales, whatever it is, that we can ideally attribute to content or at least organic traffic, or depending on what the specific goals are of that client. One sort of step further, or up the funnel, if you will, we want to look at things like traffic. Are we getting more organic traffic over time? Is the blog growing, et cetera, et cetera? And then we're also generally tracking leading indicators, so things that we think are going to translate into future performance. So things like the number of referring domains, the number of keywords in position 1 through 10, which we pull from Ahrefs. So we have kind of a custom scorecard for each client based on their specific goals, where we're tracking that. And then the attribution is pretty simple, right? This is actually one of the reasons why we try to work pretty much primarily with product-led companies, where it is a little easier to attribute a conversion back to content, right? If you're talking about like an enterprise sales deal and there's a 12-month sales cycle and it's got to go through 20 rounds of sales negotiations or whatever, then it's a lot harder to track that all the way back to say, oh, hey, this blog post turned into this $1 million sale. You certainly can do that with a more sophisticated setup. And we've worked with clients in the past too who use like HubSpot, which is a pretty standard solution if you're looking for something to really get into the attribution thing. Funny enough, this is also a resource that I recently added to middle of the funnel. Just some of the 6 of the reports that we use straight out of GA to look at both direct conversions as well as assisted and first touch attribution coming from content and coming from organic channels. Okay, happy to answer more questions about that, Randy, if you have them. Annie, what was the recruitment process? If you're referring to kind of like the original recruitment process of how we found and hired the original freelancers, like I said, it was posting, going through the applications that we received, trying to evaluate people, just having conversations. There was no, at that time it was very new. I didn't have like any kind of sophisticated system or process or anything like that. Again, nowadays we have a little bit more of an intentional workflow that involves, first of all, when we evaluate applications, there's some things that we kind of bake into the process and specific questions that we ask that help us to really get a better understanding of people beyond just looking at their work samples. So that's one big thing that we do. And then we also go through a pilot process with all new freelancers that we're trying to hire, where we work with them on actual client work and have somebody kind of oversee and review and editing and giving feedback to them. And we're, I would say we're pretty judicious, right? We evaluate people pretty stringently. We actually have a specific rubric that we use to kind of evaluate someone's work on a range of factors. But one of the things that we have definitely found is that evaluating someone's past work can be very misleading, right? You don't really know how that happened. You don't know, maybe that was in a collaboration with somebody else. Maybe there was heavy editing and a review that happened. So really, in my opinion, you kind of have to get that like firsthand work experience with someone to really understand their process, their, the quality of the work that you can expect from them, and whether or not they're going to be a fit for the team. Hey, Jasmine. Hey, how's it going? How do you navigate the freelancer to agency transition? I'm used to working with small business clients, but pitching bigger projects is intimidating. Totally understand that one. So yeah, I can tell you a little bit about my process, my experience. So as I shared before, at the time that we started Optimist, I was working as a freelancer myself. I was doing content writing and sort of bled into content strategy and some other stuff, which was part of the reason why I started Optimist as kind of a full service solution for those types of clients. Just sort of functionally, I did have like a small cash cushion in the bank. I didn't have, I'm not a millionaire. I didn't have tons of money in the bank or anything like that. But I did have, enough that if things really went awry, I could fall back on that, just a couple $1,000s in the bank or whatever to cover living expenses. And I was also fortunate, by the way, I should mention my wife had a full-time job. So we had 2 incomes. It was also helpful. But I really don't think that was a critical piece of it, to be honest. I was fortunate to not have to deal with that. But basically, the process was I kept working as a freelancer as I started started Optimist. They essentially ran in parallel for about 6, 8, maybe 12 months, where I was continuing to work with my freelance clients while we were sort of building up the roster of clients at Optimist, and it was earning enough revenue that I could actually pay myself something. Which that's the hardest part, I think, in my opinion, of starting any business and kind of going from a team of 1 to a team of multiple people. And so, yeah, that made it a lot easier. And then the other thing, again, was working with freelancers makes it a lot easier because I didn't have to worry about, hey, when and how am I going to afford to hire full-time employees, that kind of thing. I think in terms of like having conversations with clients, yeah, it can be intimidating. Don't get me wrong. I think, I remember the first few sales calls that we had where we were talking to, pretty serious, startups and stuff that had just raised a bunch of money, and there was a lot of expectation around growth. I think the key thing there is to get your cards in order as best as you can before you have that conversation. So, to whatever extent you can, put together, case studies, examples, things that you've been able to achieve for other companies. So I think, first of all, it helps you feel more confident having those conversations. And of course, it helps to kind of inspire confidence in the folks that you're talking to, the people that you're pitching. By the way, I think I'm getting like a low internet signal. So let me know if you guys are having trouble hearing me or seeing me. But anyway, Jasmine, hopefully that's helpful as like a starting point. I'm happy to answer any specific questions if you want to discuss. Ken asked if we do promo for content once it goes out. Right now, yes. So we generally do kind of targeted promotion for each specific piece based on where we see kind of opportunity to promote it, which channels we think might work, etc. We are actually in the process right now, kind of moving away from doing active promotion. You're just 100% transparency there. I don't think it's never been kind of our real strength. It's been sort of an add-on service. In some cases, we've been successful with certain clients. In other cases, it's been, almost no effect. So we're looking to kind of move and focus a little bit more squarely on SEO. And so taking some of the resources that we're spending on doing active promotion of content and instead focusing on how do we kind of shore up some of the other SEO work that we currently don't offer, but we could do to help drive better results for clients. So that's kind of where we're at on content promotion right now. Okay, we've got a whole bunch of questions still flowing in, so please continue to have those come my way. I do want to take a really quick break here and just mention, so I mentioned a couple times throughout those answers, but I've got this new thing that we started. So, over the years, I've had many people who've reached out to me about coaching or consulting or helping them build their agency. And of course, my first instinct is always like, yes, how can I help? What can I do? I think what I have realized though over the years is that one-to-one coaching and that kind of stuff is just not really my forte. And so what I've done instead is I actually launched this private community that's called Middle of the Funnel. And so Middle of the Funnel is basically what it is a small private community. It's a collection of resources that are really focused on growing your agency. There's also some things related to content marketing and SEO in there. In addition to that, there's a private Slack channel. There's a monthly live Q&A, like similar to this, where I just field questions, talk through challenges that people are dealing with. It's a group of about 15 people right now who are in there, various consultants and freelancers and agency folks who are just really looking to kind of level up their business, scale and grow. And so if you're interested in checking out middle of the funnel, we'd love to have you in. You can check it out. It's bit.ly/join-mofu. We'll take you to a little landing page. It's built in Notion. It's pretty low tech. And then in addition, I do have a coupon code. So 6 years with the number 6 is going to get you $10 off your first month. So again, would love to have you there if you find this valuable. If you want to continue to learn from my experience. Again, I'm not a guru. I don't have any like proven processes or agency in a box systems or anything like that. But I'm always happy to share my experience, answer questions, try to help you work through challenges. And I think we've also built a really great little supportive community there where other people feel confident sharing their challenges and getting feedback from other agency owners besides myself. And then obviously in the live Q&As are always great too, to just learn what people's challenges are. And then the final thing is that we're really looking to shape the content that exists inside middle of the funnel based on the feedback that we're getting, right? So kind of building it with the community there as you guys share with me, hey, here's what we're dealing with, here's what we're trying to solve. Then I can put together kind of a resource or a guide on how I approach that specific problem or how I would think about that. So again, middle of the funnel, would love to have you there. Let me know in the chat if you have questions about it. And I'll talk a little bit more about it later, but you can check it out at bit.ly/join-mofu. Okay, back to questions. Great. So Andy's got another question for me here. How do you keep and ensure the service standard? Do you have strict SOPs in place? That's a great question, because I think we are perhaps an outlier in that we do have some SOPs and workflows and things that we have developed, which, by the way, we use Notion. Shout out to Notion for specific processes, like how to do keyword research, how to set up our client workbooks, and some of the kind of internal tools and things that we use. We do have some workflows and stuff for that. We do not have super prescriptive SOPs for the actual creative work, and that's by design, right? We don't want to tell the writers, hey, here's how to make generic content that looks exactly like A, B, and C. And so really the things that we do there, what we have instead is what we call a playbook. And so the playbook is, it's not ultra prescriptive, but it's, I think, informative. It's sort of directionally informative, right? So it explains to the writer, for instance, here's what we're trying to do with this content. Here's how we think it's going to work. And here's how it fits into the strategy. That's another key thing, right? Is as part of our sort of pursuit of autonomy and ownership for everyone on the team, we have to give them that context. We have to help them understand, why are we making this, so that they can think strategically about the work they're doing and achieving goals rather than just executing a checklist, right? And so that's a big thing that we do, and that we believe in, is, giving people the creative control and creative freedom to really make good things without us telling them exactly what it needs to look like, but providing enough guidance and direction that they can execute it. In terms of like ensuring quality, we do periodic reviews and things like that, where we sort of go through content and look at what worked and what didn't, and try to create a feedback loop for the team on that. And then the other thing that we had one other thought there. I guess the other thing is that it comes back to the reporting, right? So sort of proof is in the pudding, so to speak, right? We are looking at and sort of constantly evaluating the performance of the content. At the end of the day, that's our North Star, right? It's not, hey, is this like the best article ever written on this topic? It's, how does it perform, right? Is it doing its job from a business perspective? Which might be a hot take to in some circles, but in my mind, content marketing is marketing. It's a business function, and the primary goal, should not necessarily be to create the most mind-blowing content. I mean, sure, in some cases that is helpful in serving the goal, but the main goal is that it performs from a business perspective. It generates traffic, it converts that traffic into leads or sales or revenue, and that's really how we kind of measure success at the highest level. Andy's question: what does the team look like with different roles and responsibilities? Okay, great. So our team is generally 7 people, 5 to 7 people that are involved in most clients. So we've got a strategist who is kind of like the hybrid between like an actual strategist and like an account manager. We don't have like dedicated account managers who are like just sort of the liaison. Instead, our strategist, both works on the strategy and shapes kind of the planning, and also works, talks directly to the client. So that's one role. We have generally a team of writers and editors who work on each client. Usually it's just like one or two, so it's not a huge team there. We try to keep it pretty tight so that our team can build up subject matter expertise and experience working with that client, understanding their industry, et cetera, et cetera. Then we have designers. It's kind of the same thing, right? We have a team of one or two designers generally on most accounts that kind of collaborate with the writing and editing team to really craft the content, put the visuals, all that stuff. And then, so that's really kind of the core like editorial team, right? It's sort of a standard content marketing team. In addition to that, we have a couple other things. So one is we're actually introducing a role that's a little bit unique, which is like an SEO strategist role. So that person's going to own more of the technical on-page SEO kind of stuff, a lot of reporting and spreadsheets and things like that are, not necessarily content specific, but important to our results. We have a separate team of folks, or really one person at the moment on our team who does content promotion. So we talked about before, we are doing some targeted content promotion. And then we have a separate team that's focused on link building, which is actually now its own agency that we've sort of spun out of Optimist. It's called Juice. And Juice is just 100% focused on link building. So on the Optimist side, we say, hey, we want to build links to these specific pages, hand it over to Juice, and Juice has their own team that runs the link building part. So that's the main team. That's kind of what the client, experiences is. Again, it's like 5 to 7 people who are usually involved. We do have, we did previously have a content manager who was sort of a behind the scenes, like admin person, putting together briefs and stuff like that. And we've sort of shifted that role out and kind of redistributed those responsibilities across the team. And then I guess just got to give a shout out to Katie. Katie is the ops person. So Katie works across all of our clients as well as kind of behind the scenes on Optimist stuff. Again, she doesn't have like a specific client facing role other than just make sure shit doesn't go wrong. But she does an amazing job. I think that's really also been critical to our growth as a company, to just kind of have somebody who, kind of floats and manages stuff and makes sure that everyone's has what they need and, questions get answered, et cetera, et cetera. Are you still writing content? Not really. Every once in a while I'll jump in to help if we, say somebody's on vacation or whatever, and we need somebody to pick up a piece, I might jump in. But for the most part, no, I really haven't written a lot of client content. Honestly, embarrassingly, I have not written much content for the Optimist website either, which is something that I want to really get back to. But no, I'm not really doing a lot of writing myself at this point. Have you switched to GA4? Well, first of all, shout out, I think it was Jeffrey who posted it in top of the funnel today, that they pushed the sunsetting of universal analytics back by a year, which I think we all assumed would probably happen, but we'll save us all some headache this year, or at least push some of that pain back. We have encouraged clients to move to GA4. We have a few who are like sort of, actively using GA4, but for the most part, most of our clients are still using universal analytics right now. That's actually something that I was planning to make a big push for in the start of the year, but we might delay that a little bit if it's not quite as inevitable at the moment. Cam, how do you deal with the clients who try to whittle down the price where you don't feel like it's worth it? I'd be especially interested to hear how you did this when you first started out. Yeah, interesting challenge, right? So, I mean, anytime we talk about like pricing, hopefully I don't sound too much like a shill, but this is another resource that's inside middle of the funnel is, how we think about pricing, how we think about positioning. I think all of that plays a really important role in how you're having these conversations with clients, right? So the way that I always position it to clients is like, if you're trying to achieve a specific business goal with content marketing, first of all, you need a team, right? You can't hire one person to be your content marketing team. We see people sort of make jokes about this all the time, right? Or people will post, content marketing manager job, and it's really 10 jobs in one. I really think that's a reality, right? Content marketing is, especially when you're thinking about it through the lens of SEO, there's just too many different skill sets for you to expect one person or even a small team of people to really be able to own the whole thing. So that's the first way that I try to think about the positioning is you need a team, you need all these different functions that go into content marketing and SEO, right? Again, as we just talked about, there's the strategy and the planning and the research part, there's the writing and editing, there's design, there's promotion, there's link building, there's all these different things that go into actually making content marketing successful. And it doesn't make sense to decouple those, right? That's the ultimate point, is that if you are interested in seeing results from content marketing, you need to check every box. You can't just say, I just want the writing part, or I just want the design part, or like whatever. And so we have basically told clients, like, we only sell one thing, and it's this whole package. It's the whole thing end to end. And if that's not what you're looking for, then we're not going to be the fit for you. And so I think that helps us, if a client comes to us and says, hey, I just want this one part, or I just want this other part, or whatever, or, let's do it without the design, we will generally say, oh, sorry, it's not going to work for us because we really only do the whole thing. We have in the past made some exceptions. Lesson learned. those are almost always the clients that become the most difficult to work with, the most demanding, and generally the least profitable, and they stick around the least amount of time. So what I would say is basically stand your ground as best as you can. If you are early on, you're starting out, you're trying to get your first couple clients, maybe you make some concessions here and there, but try to focus the conversation on the result, the value that you're trying to create for them, rather than the individual line items of deliverables. That's another big thing that I talk about. We use a system that we call like a modular retainer model. And it's really about like saying like, hey, look, I can't tell you up front exactly what the scope of work is going to be 6 months from now. But what I can tell you is that we're going to align on goals, and that we're going to work with you to define what the deliverables need to look like around the actual strategy, right? There needs to be an actual strategy here before we can figure out, is it going to be blog posts, or is it going to be link building, or is it going to be refreshing old content or creating new content, or, there's all these variables, but you have to do the research and the strategy first. And so that kind of bleeds into this thing, because what we tell clients is like, hey, you're not buying X blog posts, you're buying this outcome that we've agreed on, right? We talked about a business goal. You want to 2x your leads from organic traffic in the next year. We're going to help you put a plan together and do it, but you need to, we can't pick and choose the deliverables to get us there. We have to do what the strategy dictates based on those goals. So hopefully that's helpful. Let me know if that's helpful, Cam. If you have additional questions, I'm happy to answer them. How many freelancers make up the collective? Right now, I think we have around 25 on the team, on kind of the core team. And then we have a broader group that we call our freelance community, not to be confused with top of the funnel, like our free Slack community. But the freelance community is basically people who we have worked with on pilot projects. We like their work. We think they would be a good fit for future clients. And so we have them in sort of our extended network for as needed work and overflow in terms of capacity. And then they're also sort of first up to get added to our core team if and when we need additional capacity for our ongoing client work. How do I handle profit share? So Emily, I can provide sort of as much gory detail as you want. I think it's pretty simple. Our team is always confused about it. Essentially, it's just a basic formula that I've built. Again, we use Notion. Shout out to Notion. I'm not sponsored by Notion, by the way. I wish I was. But anyway, it's basically a formula that looks at how much work each individual freelancer is taking on, how long they've been on the team, and then there's sort of like a modifier for any additional jobs or roles or responsibilities that they take on. And so basically each person gets a score. So, say you take 10 hours and you've been on the team for, say you have 20 hours of monthly work and you have been on the team for 3 years, then your score might be 23. That's just a simplification, but that's an example. So then we take your score, it's 23, and then we add up everyone's score and we say, okay, the total is 230 across the whole team. You have 23 of those 230, so you get 10% of the profit share would go to you. And so that's basically how we do it. We have kind of a profit share pool, and then it gets divided among each person based on, again, their workload. One other key thing there is that we base, for both simplicity and to avoid creating like a negative incentive, we base that on sort of the forecasted workload, right? So essentially, how many like articles are you working on, rather than how much time it actually takes you to complete that work. And yeah, so that's kind of how it works. Let me know if you have additional questions. Like I said, I can go into more gory detail if you want, but it's a pretty simple formula, all things considered. You might have to help me. Is it mega? Is that am I getting the pronunciation there correctly? Let me know in the chat, please. How do you generate leads? Convert clients in the early days of Optimist? Thanks for the live. Yeah, of course. So yeah, we touched on this a little bit. I mean, our very first clients came from, I wrote a long form, sort of quasi case study. It was actually based on the work that I had done previously at a startup, and kind of how we had put together a strategy and the results that we generated with that. And so it's still on our site today. If you look it up, it's the story of College Raptor, and we grew it from 0 to 100,000 organic sessions a month in about a year. That was the whole premise of the article. And so what I did was just sort of, broke down all of the nitty gritty details about how we did it. Again, it was sort of like a quasi case study. We did not, I was, I think, fully transparent that it was, work that I had done previously at a job, and not, necessarily our Optimist team, since we were just starting. Anyway, that was the first piece of content. I created that, published it on our website, and then we just did a lot of active promotion. I mean, we went out and we promoted it. At the time, this was 6 years ago. Content promotion did look a little differently. It was sort of the era of, hey, email people and try to get them to share it on Twitter, and there were all these things that I don't think would work in quite the same way. But, if I were doing it all over again, I think I would do essentially the same playbook, right? I would have some kind of like cornerstone piece of content that I'm going to lead with, that's really going to establish us, set in place our vision and sort of our thinking about content marketing. And then I'm going to go actively promote that to try to get it in front of people who I think might hire us. And so that's really all we did, right? We wrote this article, we went out, we promoted it through Twitter and LinkedIn and Reddit and Facebook at the time. I think I was using Facebook back then, all that stuff. And that generated a lot of traffic for us. It was pretty successful overall. Got picked up by newsletters and other stuff as well. That was helpful. And ultimately that was how we generated our first leads. Not all of those leads turned out to be anything, but we went from 0 to, 10 leads or whatever in our first few months from that single piece of content. Do you pay Freelancer per hour or per article / deliverable? This is a very timely question. We have historically always paid hourly. And we did that because we know the work that goes into it varies. We didn't want to, kind of create any kind of conflict where people were working way more hours on an article or whatever. Long story short is we've actually gotten feedback over the years that people would prefer a flat fee, just for, again, simplicity, not having to track hours, as well as a more predictable income. And what we found is actually, like, a lot of people just bill us essentially a flat fee for pretty much all of their articles anyway, whether it takes them 10 hours or 5 hours or however long it takes them. So we're actually in the process of moving right now to a flat fee. We're going to basically crunch all the numbers, kind of figure out what's a good average amount that we pay for writing, for design, etc., and then use that moving forward. We're not 100% decided at this point. We're leaning towards a single flat fee that's going to be, again, kind of like the broadest possible average of what we pay. But we've also talked about doing tiered rates, based on complexity or length of content, things like that. But again, I think just for the sake of simplicity, we are leaning towards a single flat fee, and just try to find, rely on the law of averages, so to speak. Mega, what was the most important difference in the organization to grow from 100K a year to $1 million? Let me just clarify this question really quick, and I'll jump to your next question because I see you've got two here. Are you referring to Optimist, or are you talking about the case study that I referenced earlier? If you're talking about Optimist, I can share a little bit about that. Just let me know what you're referring to there specifically. Do I think the recession will impact service-based business? If yes, how can agencies and freelancers survive? I wish I had a crystal ball and I could tell you for sure. Long story short is like, yes, I do think there will be some impact, no doubt. I mean, I think we've already seen that to some extent. We've seen some clients kind of tightening the belts, and certainly companies in in tech, software, etc., having being impacted. So I do think it will have some impact. I think that as an agency, as a freelancer, um, you can benefit, which I hate to say that, right? Because it's sort of in some cases it's going to be on the backs of other people or budget cuts or whatever. But for a lot of companies, hiring somebody outside of their company, like a freelancer or an agency, is a safer bet, right? Because you're not a full-time employee, you don't come with benefits and all of the things that it costs to actually hire a full-time person. So I think some companies are going to make the decision to outsource some of that work, rather than hiring or building an in-house team. That's my thinking, my guess. I have not run an agency through a recession, so I don't know for sure exactly what to expect. But that would be my baseline assumption. The other thing that I would say is that I think agencies and freelancers are going to be under a lot more scrutiny. So I think people are going to be obviously looking hard at numbers, looking hard at budgets, looking hard at ROI. And so I think the way that you can kind of stand out and strengthen your position as an agency or a freelancer is to try to connect the dots, get as close to the money as possible, so to speak, right? So if you can say, hey, the work that we're doing is generating X number of leads or Y dollars in sales or whatever the sort of North Star metric really is, then you're going to be in a much better position than if you're just being hired to write blog posts and you don't really have any sense of how that connects to the business strategy or drives business results, that kind of thing. So I think we're going to see we're going to see a lot more emphasis on ROI, performance, understanding, measuring the work that we're doing, and it's going to be some of those dollars are going to be a little bit more tightly controlled or reallocated to things that are easier to measure. So that's my 2 cents. Obviously, like I said, take that with a grain of salt. I am not a fortune teller, but that would be my expectation. That's my expectation. What's the most important difference? So coming back to your question here, Mega, you're asking. So you said you're asking about Optimist specifically. What was the most important difference in the organization growing from $100K a year to $1 million a year in revenue? So yeah, let's unpack that a lot, a lot of differences. I think a couple key things. One is getting a lot more specific about the types of clients that we work with. That's always an ongoing thing. Like we're always sort of generally narrowing the circle, right? So we're sort of starting by saying, okay, hey, here, we're working with anybody who's got money. And then as we go, we kind of say, okay, what we learned is that, these types of clients are not always a great fit, or if we get brought in at this specific level, like that client tends to churn. And figuring that out as quickly as possible is a key thing here, right? Because what will happen is if you continue to work with a bunch of clients that are not a good fit, or your circle's too wide, let's say, you get stuck on the treadmill, right? So you will have clients come in, you will churn those clients, you'll replace them, and it'll be very hard to grow, right? And so the key there is to figure out, again, as quickly as possible, which clients are going to stick around, which clients do we serve the best, which clients are going to be the best fit for us over the long haul. And then start, sort of stacking those clients up, right? That's one really key thing there, is that, like, I think a lot of companies, freelancers, agencies get stuck in sort of this treadmill where, 100K a year, 200K a year, whatever it is, and it's because they're always fighting churn. They're fighting this uphill battle rather than having clients that stick around for 2 years. They have clients that are coming, they find out it's not a fit, they churn 3 months later, and then you've got to constantly fill that gap again and again and again. And it becomes sort of an impossible feat. So I think that's a big one that will really make the difference and sort of give you a path towards, from 100K to $1 million. The other thing, let's see, I think getting more clarity around your processes and sort of your tools. Like I think somewhere in this roadmap, I mean, this is a pretty big span, right? Going from, you're talking about 10xing in business basically. But I think one thing that we really had to do in that time period was like get a little bit more sophisticated about the types of tools and technology that we used. I still remember to this day, we started using Trello when we first started, and we found out, when we got to like 3 clients, that it was just not going to work, and we had to move to Asana, right? Like we had to get a more sophisticated tool, and so that's another big thing that I think goes into this. But yeah, again, it's sort of an endless thing. Let me pull this up. I actually have again, it's so funny, but I just shared something about this inside the Middle of the Funnel Slack channel, where I was talking about, focusing on, the things that are going to get you from where you are now to where you want to be in like 3 to 6 months. Right. And so what I said there was basically like, when you're going from 0 to 30K a month, you're really focused on the basics, right? Communications, tasks, checklists, the basic deliverables and handoffs and those kind of like workflowy things are critical. Obviously, when you're just getting started, you're just setting things up. When you're trying to go to the next level, so 30 to 100K a month is how I quantified it, which, is sort of roughly in this range, right? About 100K to $1 million a year in revenue. What are you focused on? And I think it's systems, right? It's hiring. So how are you going to hire? Who are you going to hire? Which order are you going to hire people? And how are you going to kind of fill those roles? And again, that might be hiring full-timers. It might be freelancers, whatever it is. You need a system that's in place so that you can consistently hire and bring those people on when you need them. Number 2 is operations. So again, figuring out how do you connect all the dots? How do you make sure everybody has what they need? You've answered the questions, like, there's a lot of things that kind of go into operations behind the scenes and sort of stitching together all the little pieces. So I think that's where you need to get a little bit more intentional about operations in general. In our case, we have somebody now who is just an operations person. And that has been a huge unlock for us. And then number 3 is financials. So you just got to get a little bit more sophisticated about how you're tracking and thinking about financials. You've got to focus in both on your profit margins, right? The percentages, but also the sort of pure profit, right? Because I think that's the one thing where I think people can get tripped up is you focus purely on profit margin, which seems like the right answer, but in some cases it makes sense to actually take a lower margin if your absolute profits are higher, right? So like there's some things you need to be able to kind of work out there. So having sort of a system in place to handle your financials, I think is just really critical at that stage as well. Okay. How do you, okay. We already answered this question. How do you attract and hire top talent in the early days? So we talked about this a little bit. I didn't have any specific systems in place at the time. We are more sophisticated now, for sure. And again, it's just so funny that it keeps coming back to this, but I will mention middle of the funnel. So middle of the funnel, again, if anybody wasn't on at the time, it's our paid private community focused on freelancer and agency growth. And one of the resources in there is focused on how we attract and hire talent, and specifically freelancers. And it walks through kind of our whole workflow, how we evaluate people. There's a bunch of templates in there for specific job descriptions. There's an evaluation rubric. Ultimately, I think it comes down to paying premium rates. I mean, that's such a critical thing. Like we've never been, looking for bottom of the barrel talent. We've always offered, pretty high industry standard rates, which I think has helped us attract. The brand is important, right? Like being a strong brand. And I think that kind of goes hand in hand with us, when we really first started out, especially, we really led with this idea of like, these are our values. We want to create this kind of a workplace. We're trying to avoid these problems that you have probably experienced in other work. And so just really trying to cast that vision, I think was really helpful for attracting people who are looking for that. They're looking for autonomy. They're looking for, a place where they can do their best work, not have a bunch of BS for lack of a better term. And so I think that's been really helpful for us as well. Yeah, no problem. Happy to answer. Thank you for joining. Yeah, really quick. Let me just jump in. Again, I mentioned middle of the funnel. We got a couple, 5 more minutes or so here. So I'm going to pop through the remaining questions. But I just want to mention this one more time. So middle of the funnel, you can check it out, bit.ly/join Mofu. And I've got this coupon code, again, it's 6 years with the number 6. It's going to get you $10 off your first month. And let me just give you a quick walkthrough of I guess what it looks like, kind of what you can expect. Let me do my screen share here. I'm going to share my tab. Middle of the funnel. Okay. So yeah, this is what you're going to see when you pop in here. Yeah. Long story short is it's, this is just a Notion page. So don't beat me up about that. But yeah, there's, essentially what I would consider to be, over $2,000 worth of like resources and stuff that's already inside middle of the funnel. A couple of the key resources, if you scroll down here, you'll see. So one of them is focused on how to use these modular retainers. One of them is focused on positioning. So how do we sort of position ourselves as a content agency apart from all the other solutions out there? And how do we use that to really, command more premium prices and protect our profit margins and all those important things? There's a module in here about sales and kind of how we, a couple key things there. One is we really focus on active disqualification of clients that are not a fit, which actually helps us, I think helps us attract more of the better fit clients. So that's a key thing. And then also, kind of how we go through discovery and proposals and what we use to really close these larger deals with better clients, and also without sort of getting mired in the weeds. That's a question that I keep getting asked recently is, my client wants to know exactly what they're getting. They want to, they're nickel and diming me over the way that, we price our services or whatever. I think I answer a lot of those questions inside this module, right? In terms of how you sort of position and sell the service and how you actually display it and sort of sell it to the client. And then there's also this one. So this is sort of what prompted me to think about this is how to find, vet, and hire top tier freelancers. Again, there's a whole bunch of like bonus resources in all of these modules, but there's also, for this one specifically, there's job description templates, an evaluation rubric, etc. And then later today, I'm actually launching a new resource, which is for November, which is focused on high converting keywords, how to build this opportunity score model. This is not really a proprietary process, but it's something that we do at Optimist. I think makes us better, frankly, than a lot of other agencies, right? Is how we sort of choose and find the best keywords to focus not just on search volume or keyword difficulty, but actual business value that we're going to be able to create. So anyway, that's all the stuff that's inside there right now. The key thing with middle of the funnel is that we're adding new resources every single month, right? So every month we have a roadmap already kind of sorted out here. So as you can see, this is what's coming in November, and then moving into December and moving forward, we've got a whole bunch of other stuff, right? So we've got all these topics, about running a collective, how to do capacity forecasting, how to manage your profitability, all kinds of different topics. And we're also looking for feedback from members of the community in terms of which topics are most beneficial. But basically building all of these resources based on my experience, based on my lessons. And then in addition to that, in addition to the actual like written and recorded resources that are inside, you're also going to get access to a members only Slack channel. So again, there's about 15 folks in there right now. You're going to get access to a monthly live Q&A call. So again, if this call was valuable to you, we're going to have we have one of these every single month inside the middle of the funnel, where I just take questions, work through challenges with people, give feedback, advice, share my experience, on hiring, agency growth, content and SEO topics, whatever it is. And again, just to emphasize, new resources added every single month. So I will give you like a very quick little sneak peek here. If I can do this without awkwardly showing you anything. So this is what the actual like resource library looks like. It's all just hosted in Notion. So you see here, you get access to kind of all these live things. There's some stuff about upcoming resources. There's some bonus things that I haven't even put on the page yet, as well as kind of a roadmap of some additional bonus things. There's recordings of past Q&As. There's recordings of specific questions that people have asked inside the channel that I have given feedback on. So yeah, there's just a whole bunch of cool stuff inside middle of the funnel. Would love to have you join us there if that's something that you're serious about. If you want to build an agency, a freelance business, whatever it is, and grow it and not have it suck, not have it take up all your time and be stressful, I would love to share what I've learned and how I've approached it. Okay, we're just at our final minutes here. So let me just pop back over here to comments. Of course. So I'm going to pop this link into the chat. Hopefully this works. I don't really know how the YouTube chat handles links. Yeah, we did have a couple final questions here. So I'm just gonna pop through these. I'm gonna stay a little over time if necessary. But again, thank you all so much to everyone who's joined today. Let me know, reach out to me. Let me know if you have questions on middle of the funnel or just other questions for me. I'm pretty transparent, I'm pretty open book here. So let me know what questions you have. Okay. Mega, would you say content marketing agency can you still be built from scratch in 2023 and be successful when there's such great agencies already? Absolutely. No doubt. I mean, I think about this all the time. There's so many agencies out there. There've always been a lot of agencies. I don't think there's any, and it's not an apples to apples comparison, right? You can do something that's slightly different from somebody else. And even if you do ostensibly the same work as another agency, there are a lot of clients out there, right? There's always people that need more work. And as we talked about before, I think, with the potential recession and sort of concerns about cash flow and expenses and that kind of stuff, I think there's actually going to be more opportunity where more companies are going to be looking to outsource their work or bring on an agency, or rather than building a full in-house team. So absolutely, I don't think competition should scare you away from building the company that you want. Jasmine, I don't always have insight into performance measures because I don't own that content marketing function. What advice would you give? Should I make sure I always get results to numbers to connect to the dots more? Long story short is I would say yes. Whenever possible, try to move in that direction. Try to kind of expand your scope slightly to work that in or get access as needed. One thing that we're actually doing now that we're rolling out in the new year is that we're going to, as part of our standard onboarding, we're going to do a much more robust audit of analytics and make sure that everything is in place so that we can track this as well as possible. Most of our clients have the basic analytics in place, but not all of them have sort of really great conversion tracking or whatever, right? And so we have to kind of work through that sometimes. But anyway, I would say in general, try to connect it to a number if you can. If you can't, try to maybe look for some other way that you connect it to value. Maybe you can't quite connect it all the way to revenue, but can you connect it to, again, at least traffic or, success in some other measurement? Maybe it's rankings or something that you can see, from an outsider, whatever it is, right? So I would say, to whatever extent you can, connect it, kind of as far into the funnel as you possibly can, I think is always valuable. Oh, hey, Jasmine, thanks so much for signing up, Jasmine. Happy to have you. Thanks for joining. Okay, and then this was just last question. Could drop the link in the chat. Yes, so that's in there. Hopefully you can access it. Let me know if you're having trouble with that still. I will just make one more pitch, which is, bit.ly/join MoFu. Coupon code is 6 years for $10 off your first month. We would love to have you. And then I will mention one other thing, which is top of the funnel. Yes, I know, intentional top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, right? Top of the funnel is our free Slack community. So if you're just interested in staying connected, learning about upcoming sessions, workshops, and things like that, we host all kinds of live sessions you can find actually on this channel too. If you go check out the YouTube channel, you'll see all of our past recordings. Most of this content is going to be focused on content marketing and SEO, but also things related to agency growth, freelance, business, etc. So definitely check that out. If you're not quite ready to join middle of the funnel, but you want to stay connected and maybe learn from others, would love to have you inside top of the funnel. We've got almost 2,000 members in there. In-house folks, agency marketers, agency owners, freelancers. There's a pretty good mix. People really runs the range from content, kind of content writers and real content focused people to more technical SEO folks, and a little bit of everything in between. So if you're not going to be joining middle of the funnel, would love to at least have you inside top of the funnel. Join us there. Okay, I'm a couple minutes over, so I'm going to wrap it up. But thank you all again so much. Thanks so much for all the support over the years. If you've been following along on the journey, it's been a great experience. I've learned so much, and I'm just happy to always be able to share some of that knowledge with others. So thank you again. Thanks for your support. Thanks for your time, and I hope you have a great weekend. Cheers.